Okay, so we're gonna turn it over to our good friends from Alesco.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, and hope you're all enjoying the budding trees and the wonderful weather that we have here all year long in upstate New York. I wanted to just give you a couple overarching comments before I jump into the report, just to kind of level set where we are in terms of the market. We've all made some jokes about how volatile it's been over the last couple of weeks, but the story is not as dire as you would expect. And I gave you a handout here that I'll cover in just a second, but just to take you back a couple of weeks and put us back in that situation and talk a little bit about how Alesco responded to the situation with the pension portfolio. So as you know, 3 weeks ago, we were all the major stock indices, the NASDAQ, the S&P, the Dow Jones, the ones that we hear about on TV, plus plenty of other sub-asset classes were at correction levels or potentially even bear markets. A correction is a 10% decline from a recent high. A bear market is 20% decline from recent highs. So it was a great big sell-off that we experienced, and the stock market fear index, called based on the options market, the VIX index, was at levels that you only see when there is true distress in the market. So in terms of this, what was the reason for it? It was the imposition of the administration's tariff policy on April 2nd, and the fear about what that tariff policy might imply down the road in terms of slower economic growth, weaker corporate profits, higher inflation, all negative things related to the stock market. And that's why we had this big sell-off. And in terms of that response, how does Alesco respond to something like that when you see portfolios down substantially? So we looked at the Centro accounts plus all of our other accounts, and your asset allocation to equities is around 65%. On April 4th, the asset allocation was somewhere in the range of 60 or 61% equity. So it had pulled down quite a bit. We had a little bit of a benefit bump up in bonds, and Alesco rebalanced the portfolio a couple of days between April 4th and April 8th, a couple of days in there. And looking at the numbers, we bought somewhere in the range of $1.9 million in U.S. equities on the 4th to the 9th, when the portfolio was down, equity side, somewhere approaching 20%, depending on some of the asset classes. We had no idea what was coming in the next couple of days. On April 9th, the administration announced a pause because of the market chaos for 90 days as they start to have negotiations with countries around the world. And on April 9th, the S&P 500 was up 9.5%, which is about the third largest single day gain in history, or at least going back into the 1980s, maybe to the 87 crash, that particular date, but a really big increase in that. So we're looking at the portfolio too, as you see here. I handed out this update to give you a sense of where things are. We've had, basically a 2-week period where we've had some sustained gains. We are not all the way back to where we were at the beginning of April, but as you can see on the portfolio, I'm listing 2025, the month-to-date returns, and then just the thought of where we've been over the last year on this particular handout. And you can see that this year, the consolidated accounts, all of the pension plans are managed in the same way. So to simplify this particular report, they're all down about 2.5% this year, even though we've had a 10% decline or more from the S&P. Small caps are down. What you see happening is the lesson I think we can learn from the market activity over the last couple of weeks is that it's important to have a diversified portfolio. International stocks here, that's the MSCI EAFE index and the EAFE value, up 10, 13%. So international stocks are offsetting to some degree the decline that we see this year in domestic stocks, and then the bond portfolio has also provided some stability here and some gains. So that's really the lesson that investors need to take away from this, that you need to have a diversified portfolio to stand up in different types of market environments. And the second point is that the conventional wisdom in the stock market isn't always true about what is going to be the best performing asset class. Lots of investors were talking about large cap stocks being, the best performing asset class. Stay out of international stocks. The lots of reasons that you don't want to invest in those. But that certainly hasn't been the case this year, as we've had this rotation to international, and domestic stocks have pulled back. So that's really, I think, the lessons that we can take from all this. And as you can see from the report, we've had a decent return over the past 1 year. That's the other thing to say, that the market really was looking for a bit of a pullback after 2 years of 25% plus gains in the S&P 500. Domestic stock valuations were pretty high, and this pullback, the tariff, the imposition of these tariffs is really just the impetus to have that happening. Now, looking forward, none of us know how this is going to play out, but the market clearly is anticipating that the levels of tariffs are not going to be what the administration first imposed on April 2nd. There's going to be some lower level of it, and it's going to be dependent on country to country. And it is going to be a volatile market over the next couple of months. But I think the diversification in the portfolio and the discipline that Alesco has in managing these downturns, because let's just say we have some bad news related to tariffs, the market takes another downturn. This is how we respond to it, just like we did on April 4th. Be able to take advantage of prices as they fall. There's an old joke on Wall Street that the investment industry, Wall Street is the only industry where people are uncomfortable buying something when it's on sale. So, and that is a way for investors to benefit long term, and that's how we will take advantage of these situations as we go along. Any quick comments to my intro views before I just jump into the report? I wanted to provide this update to you because obviously the first quarter report is a little bit outdated given what's happened in the last 3 months, but it's still, or 3 weeks, but it's still important to go over it, obviously. All right, with that, let's jump into the report and take a look on page 1. This is the allocation for the non-salaried annuity plan here on page 1. So, this will give you just a little background into where we were going into the market turmoil. So you were about 64% equity at the end of March in the non-salary plan, really across all the plans since they're all managed the same way. And then 35% in bonds, which is in the blue and the purple. And the purple are inflation protected securities that we've talked about in terms of the government bonds where the price is adjusted based on CPI, price and interest. So you were about 64% equity there at the end of the quarter, and that dropped about 3 or 4 percentage points as we got into the market turmoil and the equity side had declined. So that's where we got into the discipline of rebalancing the portfolio. On the equity side, if we go to the next page, how's that 64% equity allocated across the asset class spectrum? This will again give you a sense of the diversification and the benefit that the portfolio has as we sort of shifted leadership in the market. Your largest holding is the S&P 500 and the large cap U.S. stocks. That's in the big pie part at 47%. The remainder of the domestic assets are pushed down the capitalization and style spectrum into large value, mid cap blend, and small cap. And then about 32%, just shy of 31.6, is international. That is normally around 30% is our target, but because of that international outperformance this year, we've let that run just a little bit. Not rebalancing back into that where we maybe normally would once you get to maybe 32, 33%. So that's been a certain benefit. So all those holdings that are broken out on the side, that 32% is up, somewhere in the range of 10 to 14% this year. And that has a nice impact on offsetting the domestic stock declines. And that's the benefit of diversification. We've been through 2 years where international has underperformed, and now we're shifting to maybe international will be outperforming. So that's certainly a benefit to having a diversified portfolio with allocations to lots of different asset classes, but you're not chasing whatever is the leading asset class.
Say that one more time. International, I want to hear that one more time. International, you believe is going to start?
Well, I mean, it has this year.
Okay.
There's a lot of trends.
Because it's been lagging for years.
For several years,
Yeah.
It has lagged. And so now, both valuation perspective and from structural changes in the society in Europe in terms of spending on different types of things in society, more military spending, more spending, less spending on some of the social welfare things that Europe has done over the last generation, changing their spending priorities, some of the changes in some of the governments, especially the German government, that's really changed the sentiment This is before all the tariff situation happened. That was starting to happen at the beginning of the year. So those are all positive developments. And when you just think about how much better priced or the valuations are so much lower for international assets, history shows that money flows from higher valued assets to lower valued assets, and they have a better expected return because of that. If we go to the pages next up here in terms of the fixed income, we've been very consistent in that on page 3. The yields on these particular funds have popped up a little bit this year. We're now looking at maybe 4.4% yield on the fixed income portfolios. Our duration continues to be in line with the overall bond market, intermediate term, just under 6 years. So, a reasonable risk profile in the bond portfolio. We're not planning at the moment any changes at all related to the fixed income holdings, that 35% of the portfolio. But you see that 10% slice that's in intermediate government bonds. What that piece could potentially be used for is to take advantage of maybe some dislocations in the bond market. Not that we're planning to do this, but we've been watching the spreads, the yield spreads in the market to see if anything widens out. Centro wasn't a client of Alesco's back during the financial crisis, but during that period, corporate bond spreads widened out dramatically based on an unrealistic expectation of bond defaults. So those are things that we could do if there's an opportunity for it, but we just don't see any benefit in doing that now because the market has been reasonably priced, but that is something to think about. The TIPS portfolio on the next page here just gives you a sense. We've been very consistent in this allocation, and in this inflationary environment that we're in, these particular bonds have done very well, producing returns that are a couple percentage points year to date, over the last year, ahead of the nominal bond market. So this has provided great diversification for the overall bond portfolio, and we're committed to that because obviously with the threat of tariffs, and one of the things the Fed's concerned about is inflation and how that's going to be sticky in the economy, and TIPS are an antidote for higher than expected inflation. If we look at performance on page 5, we've got a little, just basically 5 years of history here for you. Again, looking at the quarter-to-date numbers, you were down just shy of 0.5%, a loss of $148,000. And as of the close the day before yesterday, you were down about 2.5% so far year to date. So, that's a very, unfortunate but a reasonable decline, given kind of everything that's played out in the overall market. Value of the account at the end of the period, $38.8 million. Your 1-year returns, you see that, 5% return. So that's with really nice gains in bond portfolio over the past year, helping add to that return. Just under $2 million, $1.98 million. Your 3-year returns are 4.9 at 4.6% return, and then your long-term returns right in line with the expected return for the portfolio at just over 7% from the actuarial expected rate of return, 7% right in line with that, 12.8 million back to January of 2020. And when you think about that particular time period too, there's been a lot of chaos that's happened since January of 2020 in terms of the market. You had the COVID sell-off, you had the increase of interest rates, that was a bear market. So we've got practically, this doesn't show up the current just about bear market, but 2 bear markets in that return, and you've got about a 10% return on equity. So being disciplined, sticking with your allocation helps you move through those challenging time periods. On page 6, we'll take a look at the sub-asset category performance and just highlight a couple of things in terms of going through all this data. If we stay on the quarter to date, look at the quarter to date on the left-hand side of the page and just at the bottom of the equity side. So again, just as a reminder, the gray line is the equity portfolio performance for the non-salaried DB plan. So it was a loss of 1.85% in the quarter, but the underlying funds and indexes show you where the market shifted in the first quarter, and that's continued on in the next in the next couple of weeks. So you had the MSCI EAFE index. That's the developed international stock market. So basically large cap stocks in Europe, Japan, Australia, up almost 7%, 6.86% 6%. Emerging markets up almost 3% compared to losses of 6 and 8%, 4% for large cap stocks. So that's where that change in leadership happened at the beginning of the quarter, and it's continued on now. And that certainly is a change from what you see historically here in terms of at least our work with Centro going back to 2000, where we've had this lagging market. If you go back over to the inception, about a 5.8% return annualized compared to 12.8 for the U.S. stocks. That's that valuation difference. And the impetus is the change in policies. And so we could be in a period, and a weaker U.S. dollar because of some of the concerns going on, regarding the U.S. economy and debt that we hold. There could be a shift in that leadership. But you've been able to, because of a diversified portfolio, over the last couple of years, achieve returns that are, over the last 3 years, about in line with the long-term range of the equity market, which is around 7%, and you're well ahead of that over the last 5 years at 9.45%. So, very reasonable equity returns given the diversified portfolio. If I go down to the next line and take a look at fixed income, again, the gray line is your fixed income actual portfolio holdings. And in the past year, because yields have come down, you've had very nice returns out of fixed income at 4.76%. And that's almost in line with the equity portfolio, and just about in line with the benchmark. And then over the last 3 years and back to inception, you're just a little bit ahead of the benchmark. And that relates to some of the shorter duration work that Alesco did with the fixed income portfolio early in our relationship, right before the Fed started raising interest rates, kind of being a little risk averse in the bond portfolio. And the last thing to highlight down on the real return assets, this is that TIPS portfolio return, 6.5% over the last year. That shows you, roughly a 2 percentage point increase over the fixed income holdings because of the inflation component in those TIPS. So that's been a great diversifier. And when you look across the portfolio for the real return assets, even with the big spike in inflation that we've had, those real return assets have been very, very tight to the CPI. And that's our long-term, probably even more than a 5-year goal, but the long-term goal. So you see that on the left-hand side, right-hand side of the page, 3.79% for the real return assets, and the CPI at 4.12. So that's a pretty tight range in a 5-year period. And then finally, just one last thing to talk about in terms of the comparison for OCIO performance. We've looked at some benchmark comparisons. How's the non-salary plan done against those benchmarks? But what about other managers that are delivering portfolios and returns for their clients? So this is OCIO data. We've been showing this for the couple of reports here, compiled by a consulting firm in Atlanta. They work with the NASDAQ stock market to compile various types of performance returns for institutional investors that have portfolios over $50 million. So that's right in line with these portfolios for the Centro, and we're comparing you to other DB plans and then just your asset allocation in the range of 50 to 69. So your 65% equity is right in line with that. And you can see longer term, up to 3 years, you perform better than the DB plans and the moderate plans. I think the one difference in the quarter, and again, this just to remind you, this is a lagging data because we can only get it on a quarter lag. So this is December 31st data versus March 31st. But your returns are at the top of the page back to December 31st. The returns in the quarter are a little bit behind the overall moderate asset allocation. And I think that's just coming from a more diversified portfolio, a little bit less domestic U.S. large cap stocks in your portfolio versus the other holdings when you think what happened back in that time period. And the reason the DB plan are a little bit lower, they have more fixed income holdings, maybe some more asset liability matching going on in those portfolios than you do. So less fixed income exposure helping you out in these, but it's not the way that this portfolio is being managed. So not a great apples to apples comparison, but long term, it's just, I think the best comparison is your moderate asset allocation, and you've done better than that over the last 3 years. Any questions at all about the allocation or performance? All right, I'm going to go through the next two plans very quickly because they're all managed in the same way and you're going to get to see the same trends. So just to highlight, 64% equity for the salary DB plan, same exposures there. You can see the equity holdings on page 2 or on page 11. International outperforming a little bit, 32%, just a little bit above our trends or our target there. Looking on fixed income at the next page, you can see the same holdings there for both fixed income and TIPS, 65-35. So the allocations, both those holdings are all the same. If we go to page 14, take a quick look at performance. You can see that the a different fund, identical holdings in terms of the mix and returns that are within a couple basis points of the non-salary DB plan. And just to highlight, in the quarter to date, you were down about just under 0.5%. The value of the plan at 38.3 at the end of the quarter, and you're obviously the same decline, about 2.5% year to date. Quarter to date numbers you can see for the equities, same trajectory there, long-term returns in line with the salary DB plan. And when we look at the OCIO data, you see the same trends on page 16, very positive over the last 3 years versus your similarly allocated funds. Holdings are there on the next couple pages, and then finally taking a quick look at the Utica plan and how that's performed. A little bit less, there's a little bit more cash flow seem to be happening in Utica typically, so we've got a little bit less equity there, 63.5% at the end of the quarter versus the 64 for the others. A little bit higher levels of cash in terms of some payouts that were happening right at the end of the quarter, but otherwise all in line with the investment policy. Equities the same mix on page 20 as the other two plans. Same thing for fixed income and TIPS. Returns for the Utica plan, also similar, a loss of just under 50 basis points for the quarter. This plan ended the quarter at $12.2 million, a loss of $60,000. Long-term returns, again, right in line with the actuarial expected return at 7%. And we can see the 24 and 25 all the same as well. The holdings are there. Nick, in terms of time, I don't know how
Okay,
busy
so
your agenda is. We've got
I think
some
the
slides.
cheat sheet that you gave us, I think it's good. It's actually, it's, to me, it's impressive. Knowing what we've gone through. Robert, do you
Yep.
agree?
Yes.
I mean, you expect a lot more with a negative in this situation, because I know some people here
Yeah.
aren't opening their mail right now for these types of things, okay? But,
The smart ones.
I'll tell you, I'm actually happy because I was expecting a lot worse, to be honest with you. And, you know, when these markets dip like this, you know, we're looking at overseeing almost like $100 million in people's pensions. It's a lot of money. And, but that's why to diversify and how we do things, because people always say, oh yeah, the stock's popular. Sure, it's popular going up. It's also popular and quick going down. That's why you gotta have that.
And that's what we've seen. The both large cap and small cap have come down a lot here in the U.S. market, and the international has come up. And bonds have provided stability. You hear a lot of talk, and I'm not sure what the media is actually referring to, that the bonds haven't helped that much. But this, maybe not in the last month, but in the year to date, they've provided a decent amount of stability in the portfolio, and that's what you're looking for. And then I think just the discipline to take advantage of downturns. I mean, that $2 million almost of equities that we purchased are going to provide a quicker rebound to the portfolio when we do get some clarity over what's happening with the tariffs and the market, and the market can see a clearer path forward.
Is it going to, between all the layoffs, it's a ripple effect. You're laying these people off, starting with the federal government, and then that also goes out to private businesses. That also affects people around the table, and that can't feed my family now because I'm laid off. The price of whatever you're gonna go get is now increased. So at some point, so are your small caps gonna, I went to Zach.
Exactly. Yeah, well.
Right, yeah, so, I mean, the large caps have, quarter by quarter, it just seems to be jumbled up. There's
Correct,
no,
that's exactly right.
Yeah, so is there a projection that the large caps are gonna kind of remain in a
Well-
positive sense versus, I mean, the small caps have been pretty consistent.
Yeah, we can look at a couple of pages in this report if you want to, just to kind of answer. Let's go to page 34, if you don't mind. We'll start with 34 and take a look first at PE ratio. So price to earnings, price divided by earnings, what's the stock price versus the earnings. That's the common metric for whether stocks are higher or asset classes from Alesco's perspective. Stocks as well are, richly valued or undervalued from a price perspective or valuation. And when you look at the chart on the page, on the left-hand side of the page, we're looking at large cap stocks, small cap, value, and growth stocks. You can see small cap and the range. So what we're looking at on this page is the 15-year price to earnings ratio range. So where we've been going back 15 years, and then the median in that time period, and then where we were at the end of March, and then at the end of December, so the end of the year. And the small cap valuations are practically at the bottom of a 15-year range. So they are very cheap historically related to their own asset class, and well below the median. So they've just gotten beat up terribly. Growth stocks on the other side are still pretty richly valued, and you see that in terms of where they are. They've come down, they've been beat up. That's that roughly 20% decline in the NASDAQ or so, but they're still above the median and, pretty well above the bottom of that range. So small cap stocks have a much more opportunistic future return perspective because of this valuation. So, and if you look on the next page, you can see kind of how that plays out from the valuation that we're at now. There on page 35, we've got two charts. On the left-hand side shows you the comparison between large and small. When the lines that you see at the top on the right-hand side of the page is at the top, that means large cap stocks are expensive. Small cap stocks are inexpensive when you're at the bottom. So from that perspective, when you're up at the top like that, they're expensive on the bottom. History shows there's been this movement, and we go back to the dot-com bubble at the left-hand side of the page. So small cap stocks, large cap were again expensive then. They moved through the financial crisis, they became cheap, and now large cap is expensive again from that perspective. So we're at like the 86th percentile. I'm moving to the next chart over. And that means there's not a whole lot of time periods where small cap stocks have been as cheap as they are now. So this scattergram that shows all these dots on the chart, we're in the upper right-hand quadrant. And that means that over the next 10 years, you're likely to get somewhere in the range of a 2 to 8% a year annualized return out of small cap stocks. And that's what history has shown in terms of where small caps might go given the valuations now and how much they're undervalued. So what's the impetus? That's what the question is that's going to cause that to happen. There could be a couple things. One, we get some lower interest rates, and that spurs some economic growth. The Fed's kind of talking about that now. The market thinks there could be 3 rate cuts this year, kind of given the slowdown that's expected. Well, that's the conventional wisdom. It may or may not happen. But the other thing too is if we do, we could be in a recession now and we don't even know it. That's part of what the definition of a recession is: slower economic growth, a negative economic growth for at least 2 quarters in a row. We could be in that now, and that's part of what this downturn was. Coming out of a recession, small cap stocks usually do very well as that acceleration happens to economic growth. So those could certainly be catalysts for it. But I think really what's really hurt small cap stocks the most has been the higher interest rates over the last 2 years, because their financing, I'm speaking in generalities here, their financing is very much centered on floating rate debt, and as rate debt has gone up, their balance sheets have not looked as attractive. So a lower level of interest rates, it probably doesn't even need to take much but 50 to a basis points to a percentage point would make a big difference. And that combined with a little bit better outlook on economic growth could be the catalyst that spurs small caps. But your guess is as good as mine as when that happens.
I think what you're saying though is like as it falls down, layoffs, whatever, you can't afford stuff, things are more expensive. You got the stock market and the economy, which aren't necessarily the same thing.
That is true.
But if our economy is based off consumer spending, right? So like if you can't afford this stuff, when is the pain coming, right? Will we see it show up next
For the people in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, so for the driver, I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
So the only consolation, I mean, that certainly could be the case. I mean, I think that there's a sense that it may not seem like it, but the tariff pause was certainly the market participants getting to the administration that this can't quite, you got to slow down on this. And the market did get them to at least pause to kind of work through this. So they're certainly aware of it. But the consolation is the economy was in pretty good shape moving into all this. And you can see that. I'm not going to go through the data here because of your meeting time, but the economic data is fairly good up until this point. So where we are seeing some slowdown, some credits getting a little bit tighter for people. There are a little bit more defaults, but it's nothing like it was in 2008. Balance sheets look much better. There's still some need for hiring, and I think that if this uncertainty wasn't sitting there, it would be a little bit better than what it is. So that's a small consolation, but it's not like we were looking at going into the financial crisis, the high levels of debt and all that concern about balance sheets. We don't quite have that now.
Okay, any more, Robert? Yeah.
Okay, I'll be quick. Okay, you're actively managing this portfolio, doing a good job. Okay, passive investing, meaning you listen to the TV and they say, oh, buy QQQ or whatever, and just forget about it. And that passive investing has kind of outperformed active, but could this be a shift going from passive into active management, meaning looking at the fundamentals of what you're buying, the companies? Could this be a shift?
I don't necessarily see that being a shift. And just to clarify the way you're describing this, Alesco implements our portfolios using primarily passive index-based investments. So we're buying asset classes of large cap, small cap, et cetera. And we're using valuation and long-term metric trends in order to weight how much we own of each one of these. But we use an active overlay in terms of opportunistic decisions on when we rebalance in terms of how we hold things. So, and this rebalance is an example of that on April 4th. I am not certain that there's a long-term change in the benefit of holding index-based investments versus buying individual stocks. I just don't see that happening in this situation, that changing.
Okay, I'm not necessarily talking about individual stocks, and I know that you're actively managing the portfolio. That was the first thing I said, but you have people out there that see the commercial for Vanguard, just buy the index
Right.
and forget about it. And over the last 10 years, that's kind of outperformed.
Right.
Okay,
So-
but are we gonna get to the point where it goes back to what you're doing, fundamentally investing? Meaning the investor
Okay.
should look at what he's buying.
Well, I think that, so when what Bob's referring to in terms of buy the index, and that's been the outperformance of large cap stocks, I think. And that exclusive return going back to the financial crisis on a trailing 10-year basis or more. So fundamentals always matter in terms of how you allocate a portfolio. So yes, I agree with you that there should be more focus on how you allocate a portfolio and where you actively place money between large, mid, and small cap stocks. So yes, I agree with you from that perspective. And I think there's, we're going to see a trend, won't be quarter to quarter, but there could be some outperformance of these undervalued assets in the portfolio versus large cap stocks.
Yeah.
That would be my sense, but your guess is as good as mine
I think we're
of when
getting
that
there.
happens. I think so too.
Stay diversified.
That's important.
Okay, if there's no other questions,
It's only money.
Tim, I wanna thank you. Thank you. Keep it going, keep it going, please. If there's a time when you ever think when you're off cycle and you wanna come in front of us, let us know,
Sure,
okay?
absolutely. All right, thank you all very much.
We're gonna move that meeting, we're gonna go right into audit and finance. Okay, folks. Welcome to the audit and finance meeting. Turn it over to Melissa. I know this one is a little bit different.
Yeah, so we don't have any financials to present this month. We are underway our annual audit. Thus far, it's going pretty well. They were here this week for intro. They're out of the field 2 days early, which is a testament to the team and being fully prepared. So that's always a good thing when you know they leave early and we're happy with the results so far. And then we do have 5 resolutions.
Okay, so we're gonna start out with, resolution 3A. To authorize contract award for administrative services for an EAP employment assistance program.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. So this contract will be paid for with operating funds. This was a request for proposal that was advertised on February 20th. The proposal was sent to 21 vendors, 8 of which were minority and women-owned business enterprises, and 32 proposal packages were downloaded. On March 14th, we received 2 proposals, and the evaluation committee determined that Kraus Help People offered the most advantageous proposal.
Are those numbers real?
Those numbers are real. Yes, there's a very large discrepancy between Kraus Help People and the ESO Consultants. So ESO Consultants is actually a staffing firm down in New York City. So they were planning on just staffing all of the services that we
Okay.
needed as opposed to, yes. Kraus Help People is a local company that handles the service in-house. So this contract does have a full waiver for MWBE participation. And we are looking for a 5-year term with Kraus Help People, commencing on January 1st.
It's a free service for all our employees.
It is, yes.
Okay, any questions on the EAP?
We sure we don't want the other one?
I'm pretty sure.
We'll move that to the city of Syracuse and take that one out. All right, so, let me have a motion to accept, Kraus Help People for a 5-year term commencing January 1. Neil, second. Monty, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're gonna move into resolution, 3B. To authorize payment to Clever Devices for multi-year software and database maintenance agreement. Neil.
This will also be paid for with operating funds. Now, Clever Devices is the software program that supports our fixed route operations, and this is a sole source procurement because the software is proprietary to Clever Devices. We're looking for a 5-year agreement with the total cost being $1,676,630. We are looking for a ratified award back to April 1st of this year.
We've been with Clever Devices forever. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on Clever Devices?
So do they integrate with VIA, or how's that working?
No, VIA is for our on-demand and paratransit services. We actually used to utilize Clever for paratransit, but we're no longer moving forward with those modules because we have VIA.
So just for the fixed
Okay. Any more questions? Motion?
rate? So moved.
Tony, second. Monty, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Resolution 3C. To authorize contract award for Cortland County Fuel Farm Agreement for 2025.
This will also be paid for with operating funds. So Portland County has a current agreement that they've competitively bid for bulk delivery of gasoline and diesel fuel. They are granting us access for a 1-year period of time as we're getting our central Portland operations up and running. We're paying 25 cents above their cost per gallon. So we are looking for a 1-year agreement, also ratified to April 1st of this year as we started utilizing the fuel farm when operations began in Portland.
It makes sense to me.
We're paying the 25 cents just because they put their contract out, weren't thinking we'd be using it, so we're kind of coming in after the fact and giving some rights. We pay a little premium.
I think it's typical for everyone. They do have other, I don't know if they're, yeah, they're agencies that utilize the fuel farm, so that's a typical agreement that they.
Yeah, the county added that additional 25 cents to help fund any future repairs and maintenance to the facility itself to all users of the facility.
Very good.
And for 1 year?
Yes.
Any questions? Okay, so, need a motion for Carlton County for 1 year, 1 year period here in that. Neil, second. Julius, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Very good. Tara? You come over. Okay, resolution 3D. To authorize bus transfer from the CNYRTA to Watertown City Bus.
So we were approached by Watertown City Bus. They were requesting to see if we had a vehicle we could transfer to them. Being that they are an FTA recipient, we have to do a transfer recipient to them because the vehicle will be used for transit purposes. So in our last round of retirements, we did have a bus that was able to fit their need. So we would like to move forward with that transfer to them. We will need to sign this resolution as well after.
Okay, so there's no exchange of anything?
No,
just-
there is no exchange, there is no FTA portion left to that. That vehicle has long since lived its life with us.
I thought
And-
2011 buses are pretty popular right now. Especially in upstate New York,
They are.
okay. So I need a motion to move this over to Watertown, Llewellyn. Second, Tina, any discussion?
One quick question, so if you have to do this again, you gotta vote again, or is it, you can just do it?
No, each time we have a request like this, we will have to go through. There's a lot of red tape on the FTA side in order to get a vehicle transferred. It's been a very long time coming.
I'm just
to
wondering
do
from
this,
their
so-
end, if they're knowing we're gonna need more than one, you know, it's.
No, every time they do a request, unless they would have requested a number of them at a time, but right now they only need one.
Yeah, and they're working on replacing some of their vehicles, but with the timeline and delivery, there's a gap, so they're looking to utilize this bus to fill that gap.
How does that vehicle compare to the one we have? The vehicle that they already have?
The vehicles they have to the one we're sending them? I think they're very similar. I don't know their fleet, Jeff, have you been up there? I don't know what their.
They're 30-foot, 25-foot vehicles, so this one's a little bit larger, but it does go through their area just nicely. We've let them borrow a bus before in the past, just to help them get through. Like Chris was saying, there's times when they can't get their buses in time, and it just helps them get through that period.
Is that a better way than selling the bus? I mean, when we put it out for auction, I mean, like.
There's gotta be somebody that wants it.
You're looking for a bus.
I was just gonna add
It's very,
One scooter thing, Julie.
You gotta have my scooter.
okay. We got the motion second. All in
However, if you'd
favor?
like to donate
Aye.
a bus.
I can tell we're all in favor. So, is that City of Syracuse School District? So, we're gonna be moving on here to 3E, very similar. A donation from us to the City of Syracuse Fire Department for a 2012 bus.
So like Watertown, this bus was also requested from the city, however, it differs. It is not a recipient to recipient transfer. This one is an actual donation or an in-kind, if you will. So we would like to move forward with helping out the City of Syracuse Fire Department with a vehicle as well.
So just to follow up, they've been hungering for this thing for a while. They use it for when there's emergencies, there's a fire, folks gotta evacuate a structure, they bring the families in, they give you a place to keep warm overnight. It's a good use for a transit bus that's already served its throughout life.
So, question though, cause, 9 Mile ever blew up, Central's you gotta go up and you gotta go get them.
We are the
So-
emergency evacuation
Right.
plan.
So, why don't we do this same for the fire department?
We do, I mean, so the bus, the vehicle, we've done this before, so they have an 05 New Flyer right now that's significantly past its useful life, so they're looking to refresh that with this bus. But even in time of need, they will call Robin and the operations team, we've done it a couple weeks ago. when they had a few fires.
Yeah.
That we've also sent additional vehicles from our fleet to have a driver. So we do that. In some cases, they can do it on their own. With some of these other ones, we do come out with our active fleet to assist. And we've done that in city fire, PD, a number of cases.
Yes, sure.
Are these write-offs for us?
I don't think so.
No, I mean, there's nothing to write off, they've reached their useful life. So at this point, we would either auction them or put them to the scrapyard. So they're being put to good use,
But they're being used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The useful life is extended.
but not from the.
Not from the federal side.
Oh, okay. Oh,
It's only got 500,000 miles.
Okay, so,
All they gotta do is put in a request for it.
okay. Take a dose.
There were a few more than coming.
all right. So, in a normal course of business, I would have Neil make the motion because he's an employee of the city who recused himself. But I'll have Tony make the motion, right, Tony? So I got the second, Monty. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And we'll get those notarized. Okay. Melissa? Okay, let's take 5. Thank you. Before we get started here, I just want to acknowledge Barry Schulman and Deb. Barry's been a long time attorney associated.
His name up there.
Associated with the authorities.
Spell it right.
And, you know, Barry worked on, now, it's 2025, we all know that. Barry worked on all the, putting this together back in the late 1960s. So I don't even think I was, you know, I don't know if I was here at that point, you know, on this earth, so. But I'm saying, Barry's been a true friend, and we're glad that he came in to see us today, and I personally get up there, Chris directs me to shine that name now and then, so I get up there, I take the dust off there for you, so we're glad that you guys are here today.
Debbie and I are both very much enamored of the most wonderful client any lawyer could have.
Yeah.
And that's you guys. And all the things you've done for the world from this little room are amazing. So thank you for letting us.
You're amazing, and you know what? She's amazing for letting you. Okay, folks, we're gonna get this moving today. We're gonna have Barry and Deb lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, it's the privilege of this board and the staff here to acknowledge a long-term retirement. And Teddy Knopfel joined the maintenance department of Central Syracuse facility in November of 1988 as a servicer relaying and cleaning buses. Over the next 36 years, Teddy took on additional responsibilities in his roles as night shift mechanic, day shift mechanic first class, and in 2004 is the running repairs foreman, where he was responsible for overseeing the various aspects of running repairs work, which include brake, suspension, steering, differential, and DOT inspections. Throughout his career with Central, Teddy's focus was to ensure that Central buses were safe for its drivers, mechanics, and the public. He could always be counted on to offer his assistance with many of the obscure projects, looking for ways to help the company when needed. And when it came time for DOT inspections, Teddy would make sure the buses were ready. On April 1st, 25, following a 36-year career with Central, Teddy closed his toolbox for the final time. It's following his decision to retire and spend time with his family. You know, God bless you, it's important. Sometimes with work, sometimes it interferes with the time we spend with our family, believe me, you know, but that's wonderful. Teddy, we'd like to thank you for your many years of service and professionalism to Central and our local community. We are proud to have had you as a member of our maintenance team and wish to congratulate you on a wonderful, well-deserved retirement. Teddy, thank you. Appreciate everything you've done for us. You did a great job. Enjoy retirement.
Congratulations.
In the last 12 to 24 months, you've had hundreds of years walking out the door. If you think about it, hundreds of years. Great. Okay, we have a quorum present. Next meeting date is May 30th. Audit and Finance at 9. Board meeting at 9:30. I want to make one notation here with the motion to approve the regular minutes of March 26th. Note the change of no action taken in executive session previously read and carried unanimously, so I need a motion. Robert, second. Luella. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, Chris. Oh. And then also, today's April. I don't know if people know this month's April. It's our annual meeting and our board meeting, so towards the end of the meeting too, we'll be electing our officers too. And Luella will be reporting out on that. All right, at this point, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. So as Melissa talked about the Audit and Finance Committee, there are no financials, so we have not done any COVID drawdown funds this month or for the month of March due to year end. So once we get through the month, the year end close, we may look at a drawdown there. Just highlighting at the time I wrote my report, the state was on their 5th budget extender. As of yesterday, they are on number 8. So we are still behind on seeing a finalized budget. The current budget extender runs through April 29th. But as I mentioned, we're still continuing to work on our 50% increase and advocating for that and any conversations that we can. And hopefully we see an increase or an expedited budget negotiations going forward. I'm gonna skip around my report just to highlight some project updates. As Steve and Brent will probably allude to in their report, we've been meeting with several individuals. In the last month, we met with the Onondaga County Office of Aging, the Moving People Transportation Coalition, Accessible Transportation Advisory Committee, also known as ATAC, to give updates on our projects, our BRT project, Bus Rapid Transit, as we continue to move forward. The system redesign, Better Bus Onondaga, which is getting a lot of momentum. Actually, our consultant team is here on site this week. They've been meeting with the team in service development the last all day yesterday. I believe they are meeting today, either as we speak. I'm not sure. Brian is here, so maybe not as we speak, but through today to really hone in the results of our public outreach for the first go around, and then certainly the launch of VIA that happened in February to really get everybody up to speed on the new Call of Us platform that we're utilizing. All the meetings are going very well. Everybody is receptive and a lot of positive feedback on what we're doing. It's certainly a big change in the transportation network that we provide, and probably the biggest change for a positive in almost 20 years. Certainly when we come to the table and talk about system changes, it's usually reducing routes, where in this case, we're reevaluating to provide better routes. So very good conversation there. The next piece is the Centro of Cortland launch. So several of you have partaken in the ribbon cutting and the launch of Centro of Cortland on March 31st. We have seen a great success since we've really come into the transportation services in the community. The certainly reliable and equitable services have been provided. I know in a conversation with Ryan, our manager down there, we are providing probably the most consistent service that Cortland's had in several years. And we also expanded our Call of Us network down there. So by providing those services, we are seeing a lot of positive impact in the community, and we're continuing to see those services grow. So all in all, it's been a great opportunity. With us today, I'm going to highlight a few people. After the board meeting today, we did invite the Cortland County folks here to affix the Cortland County puzzle piece, I'm going to call it, to our service map that's outside the boardroom here. So at the conclusion of the board meeting, Casey Brown has it here on the table for that piece. We will do some photo ops and affix that to the map for the expansion of our service for the first time in 20 years. But to highlight a few people, we do have Melanie Velarde, who's the Cortland Deputy County Administrator, Bo Harvin, who is the County Legislator and Chairman of the Agriculture Planning and Environmental Committee, who is really the county legislator that drove this on the county side to bring Centro into the Cortland community. Savannah Hempstead, who is the Cortland County Clerk. Certainly both, I think we've met Trish and Melissa, who have been strategic in ingraining us into the community down in Cortland County. They're both here. And I just want to thank you guys for your hard work to really advocate to get us in there to make this merger a success. We appreciate that, and it's certainly a testament of the hard work and the partnership that we started and that we're going to continue to build on in Cortland County. And at this time, Bo, I don't know if there's any words you want to speak to the board or on behalf of Cortland County, or Melanie. I certainly welcome you guys to.
I mean, basically, the only thing that I could say really on top of all this is just thank you. Thank you all for your cooperation. Chris, thank you, and everybody on your team for coming down. I know this was a tight time frame. We got this done in 7 months. We weren't sure if that was all going to happen, but we really appreciate it, and we're just really excited about the opportunity now in correcting the mistake that our board made 40 years ago when we opted out. We can fix these things. It just may take some time, but really looking forward to the expanded service. What you said is exactly what we're hearing from our constituents. Much more reliable service, better service. Ryan and his team are doing a great job of getting things up and running, and we're just really excited about the opportunities into the future. So again, just my message is thank you very much.
Melanie, anything to add?
I can only add that I was here for your earlier committees. You talked about transferring some of your assets, and I know, Monty, you were asking about going to Watertown and like that, but I can assure this board that your biggest assets are your team that runs your organization every day for you. And to watch them do what they do every day and to move this forward in 7 months, Jackie, all of you in this room that are so fortunate to have a team that you have headed up by Chris. Kudos to all of you. Thanks again.
Thank you. So one more person that I want to recognize and introduce the board to is our senior manager of Cortland, Ryan Reynolds. So he was alluded to in a few conversations. He has transitioned over with several members of the Cortland staff from TransDev. Ryan brings a great knowledge of the community. He's held several positions within the community down in our southern tier area. That really brings that local knowledge, that political background. So we're happy to have him as part of the team as well as the rest of the Cortland staff. So welcome, Ryan, and thank you for coming aboard.
Thank you.
Before moving on to staff reports, any questions on my report?
I would just say, as soon as that budget is passed, which you usually do, I don't have to remind you, you send a blast out to everybody and
absolutely
what we budgeted and what we got. From a percent and from a dollar amount would be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, we will. So moving into staff reports, Jackie.
Oh, you want to be close to me? Oh, good.
Gotta be able to control it somehow.
I can bring my chair around the corner to meet with you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So just a little bit of an update over the last couple of months. As alluded to, HR and the training team have been very active and busy. We hosted an open house at the Cortland Work Center, Career Center on May 8th. We had a number of candidates show up there, stop to speak to our representatives, along with just asking about the service, that they were, what we were doing, what we were looking at doing, are we going to expand the service, etc., in the Cortland County area. So it was a very successful day. Along with that, the HR team took a couple of trips down to Cortland. One to onboard the current employees that are currently working there now, and also to train them in regards to all of our policies, our procedures, and the required policies that are mandated by New York State and federal government, like our harassment, our drug and alcohol policy, ADA, ethics, diversity, Title VI. And in addition to that, we just started a new operator class. on April 14th. So as of right now, we have 12 candidates for Syracuse. We have 4 in Oneida and 5 in Oswego. So that's 21 trainees that recently started. And we recently had 12 turn in Syracuse from our January training class that started. So as I said, it's been a busy couple months for HR and training.
The 12 from Syracuse, they're driving?
Yes, yeah, 10 full-time, 2 part-time are driving.
Jackie, where does that leave us on our driver deficit?
50.
Not 50. I mean, we're moving up a little bit, maybe 30. I would say it's it's kind of that cycle. You know, we can't break out of that cycle where
When we still stuck, we bring them in and then 12 retire.
Yes, we're stuck in that. We're stuck in, they come in full time, then they transfer to part time. So we're still stuck in that area a little bit. But Frank and I are working on a plan. We got a mentorship program that we have been developing. We're going to try to roll it out with this new class once they turn in July, where they will actually have a mentor to help them and assist them and kind of, answer any questions they may have as a driver. So
just be a support.
yes, exactly. It's like a big brother program.
Yeah.
Is what we're looking to do. So.
And I'm hoping
Yes.
that when you meet with the TNT on May, emphasize that to them. You have a,
Brian, you got that?
Yeah.
Yes.
About what it's all about, because a lot of people doing those central running, they don't know central.
Right.
Stuff like that. And like if you have a projector to promote that would help them with visual aids and stuff like that.
Sure.
Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy question. I'm thinking of summers, and job search. Not getting relation to job search. So the school district clearly run less buses in the summer. So is it possible, I would think in Cortland too, and they got school buses and that. Is it possible to create, a job sharing program to our numbers, to our routes, that we could increase routes over the summertime and into the fall, and maybe retain, I don't want to take drivers from you, but retain some of those drivers, or it's job sharing,
Tell me, so
I
many
moved
of
up on
those
that.
TNT drivers come over to medical transfer.
I'm trying to be kind.
Yeah, so
Steve?
the challenge there will be, historically, if you are offering a different level of service in the summer than any other time, you're gonna confuse your riders. They're gonna have an expectation that those rides are gonna be there year round. So you need to increase, it's tough to do that, and tough to gauge for what you don't know. Are they leaving? Are they staying? I don't, from a union perspective, I don't know how that would work. It's how the sign up would work. It's messy. It's messy.
And we do have a number of drivers who drive for the school who work for us part-time. Now,
That's what I'm
so,
thinking. Just-
I mean, we do have that. Unfortunately, in the summer, a lot of our work is decreased because the schools are down. SU is down, so.
Oswego's down.
Yep, Oswego is down, so.
The reliability of service increases in the summertime because there's more.
We have a lot of
expertise
drivers. I was gonna say, we have a lot of drivers on hand.
Okay. How are the mentors chosen, and are they incentivized to be mentors?
So we are talking about that now. What we did actually is to get the program running. We had the union president, Jimmy Hester, and my HR manager, Amanda Wilson, are going to be heading up this program. They listed 20 drivers that they felt would be excellent in this responsibility. And out of that, and it was great to do because there was a lot of similarities that they chose. So there were a lot of drivers that they both felt were deserving of it. And we whittled it down to about 6 to 10. We haven't decided how many we're going to start with at this point, and we are talking about an additional incentive for them. So, any other questions? Okay, one more item. As a reminder, Mr. Davis, and everybody else on the board.
Do again?
Again?
Do me.
Yes, the financial disclosure statements are due on May 15th. So please make sure that,
So
you
for
file
anyone
them.
who hasn't
I
done
got
that, do you
mine
send
done.
out the notice?
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will send out a reminder to you, probably the beginning of May, just to remind you again to make sure it's done.
When did we get that?
Last week.
I was gonna say at least
April 15th.
a couple of weeks ago, I think they sent a reminder out.
Check your junk folder.
And if
April 15th.
I haven't seen
you were on vacation, that's why.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, you know?
I should have just about that. Word. Cheese. Really cheese about it. That's what I was talking about. Well, I finally got mine.
Okay, yes, I got your message that you got yours in, so you won't get a nasty message.
He kept kicking me out.
Is that from you or New York State?
That's from the Ethics Commission,
So it came
so it's
out.
from New York State.
They're coming.
April 15th.
Joco or Jaco or
Jacob.
something.
Yeah, it's
I
ethics.
remember.
No, it's not
It's-
Jacob
it's-
anymore.
Well, they
It's-
shut Jacob
it's
down
the-
for being not
Yeah.
ethical.
It's
a
the,
new
yes,
vote.
it's
The New
the
York
ethics-
Commission on Ethics and
yeah.
Lobbying in Government.
Make sure you have a task order.
And then the email is typically from like Ethel, they name it.
Ethics@public.gov.
Oh, okay, they renamed it then, okay.
I haven't seen that.
Okay, if anybody needs any help, you know I'm always here to assist you, so. And that's all I have,
Thank you.
thank you.
Ramen?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Operations has been very busy over the last month. To update everyone on Portland, and to add to what Chris has already mentioned, all is going very well in Portland. The local team has been working extremely hard to ensure service is continuing to be provided. To date, I'm happy to report we have not lost any service in Portland. And that's, again, in part because the local team, also our team in Syracuse, has been there quite a bit to support that team and ensure that we are continuing to not lose service, even with some staffing challenges. So we will continue to do that and ensure their success. Also, we continue to assist our community partners and in events such as the recent film event with the Metallica concert where they broke records, and we provided over 30 buses, and you know, we continue to support all of those local events. And we also have been working on several operational improvements, which we've done in the past. And recently, the most recent example is a temporary MOU, which we just signed with the union, and it establishes a call bus full-time extra list. And I'll explain this a little bit. And it wouldn't be possible without the recent VIA software upgrade. But essentially, we are using that software, which can automatically assign the workload that we're receiving to operators that we already have that have extra availability. If they want to work before or after their normally scheduled hours, we are now able to more easily assign that work, which is effectively insourcing a small portion of the transportation that we were previously outsourcing. So it's it's mutually beneficial for us, for the union, for the operators, even for our customers. Our goal was to bring some of that work in-house, and that's what we've been trying to do. And this is one small example of the way we were able to do it. With that said, don't really have much else to report on today, but we do have a Call a Bus quarterly report. And Josh Gardner, I'm going to ask him to come up here and give a little bit more detail on some of the data we've been able to receive from VIA, which is pretty eye-opening. Any questions for me?
Robin, you said that MOU is temporary?
It is temporary. We hope to make it permanent, but with a lot of MOUs, we'll do it as a temporary MOU just to make sure it goes well for all parties. We might have to tweak things along the way, which is pretty common, but it's going well so far. We've heard positive feedback from the drivers, from the union, and again, it's providing us the ability to in-source. So
The words that I hear from customers is they're the happiest when they hear a call of us is pulling up to their door, not a subcontractor.
And we feel the same way, and that's why we're doing our best to bring some of that work in-house. And we're working on some other things as well, but that is our ultimate goal, to bring some of that work back and provide that service. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So March was the end of the fourth quarter for our call bus statistics. Just so everyone knows, some of the stats are from our old system Trapeze, some of the stats are from our new system, so it's kind of a mix from two different systems right now. So it's still accurate, it's just sometimes the reporting is a little bit different in each system, so it's just slightly different, but overall, still the same information. We continue to see increases. This time the increase was a little bit smaller, it's only 4% over prior year. But the previous prior year was a 12% increase over that prior year. So it's still growing, not as fast, but it's still a big increase when you look back 2 or 3 years. You will also notice in this quarter, our telephone access did decline. A lot of that was due to the new system. So in January and February, we received a lot more calls. Just anytime you're switching between systems, you're gonna get a lot of questions. Questions take time, extend phone times, that sort of thing. But if you look at the stats, we've already bounced back in March significantly compared to February.
The phone wait time is, I can remember putting my phone on speaker and waiting 10 minutes. I don't think I've waited more than 2 or 3.
Yeah, March was dramatically better, and we'll continue to see that. The also trend we're seeing when I compare, even though our ridership was up this year, when I compared a week of telephone stats from this year to prior year, the actual number of calls is down. So people are starting to use the app and book their own rides, which cuts down on the wait time for other customers that use the phone. So there's a benefit to all of that for customers. Now, the other thing I have attached to the back of the quarterly report today is some VIA reports from VIA, which are much nicer than our older report. We got some color to it. So the first one I will call out is the ride rating. So after customers take their ride and it's been performed, they're actually able to give a rating for that ride. All right. On that rating, they can also give it, I forget what they call it, a label. So they can put different labels to it, whether it's a driver, good, bad, issues with the vehicle, if the vehicle was clean, if it was a quick trip. There's these different labels that they can attach to it. Overall, 93.2% of the ratings were 5-star ratings. There were some other ratings that were lower, but that allows us to focus in on those and see where we're having the most issues. But 93% of them were 5-star, which is a very good sign. Right below that is our service operation report out of VIA. What that does is it kind of gives us, this is only for February and March, it's not the full quarter, because January and the first day of February were in the old system, so this is only reporting some. So if the data doesn't match the other sheet, it's because it's not the full data. So if you look at that, it has some graphical displays that are nice to actually look at. You can see how many trips were actually completed, how many were canceled, how many were no-showed on that little bar graph. Just to, put into example or into reference, like, what do we go through on a daily basis? You can see that we do get a high percentage of cancellations on each day. Some days are higher than others. It also lets you know, like, on the met demand, how many rides per day roughly that we're doing. You'll notice that Wednesdays, Fridays tend to be higher than the rest, and that's just the trends that we see. VIA has a lot of reports. I didn't want to bombard you with a bunch of reports, but it has a lot of data and reports that we can start to drill down to provide better service to our customers. See, hey, where's our need? Where's it best to add a little bit of service here and there to meet the demands of the customers?
What's our no-show rate like?
The no-show rate is
it going down?
It's not going down. It's similar right now to what it was previously. So no-shows, it was down in March, just slightly when you look at January, the old system. Some of that is, I think as time goes by with VIA, that number will continue to go down. VIA is using Google Maps. So a lot of times, the hard part with no-shows is when you put an address into Google, and I'll use 400 Audubon, all right, there's 10 different buildings. And Google's just gonna place it in the middle of those 10 buildings. So right now, what we're doing a lot of times is adding information to customer files to make sure we're getting drivers to the right place. So as we get more information into that system, it'll cut down on those numbers.
And there's a question that I've got from some people, and actually I've had it myself. We have the 10-minute call, or the 10-minute text. This morning, for example, I got the 10-minute call, and then 3 minutes later, I got your ride has arrived. What is the actual time that the driver has to wait?
So the driver waits 5 minutes from the start of the window.
Okay, because.
Or when they arrive. So let's say I have 10 a.m., right? Mm-hmm. Say you were told 10 a.m. to 10:20.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If the driver arrives at 10 a.m., they'll wait a full 5 minutes to 10:05.
Right.
If the driver arrives at 9:55, he or she has to wait till 10:05.
Okay, because some people are saying that part's not happening.
That the wait?
I've had weird things where I get the 10-minute call after I got the buses arrived call.
Yep.
It's a little, but I hustle my butt out there because some of them, they hit the 5-minute timer when they arrive and they're not waiting you were early part.
Yeah. So I have gotten some of those complaints, but actually all the ones I've researched, the driver is there at the times, and typically it's 8 to 10 minutes that they're usually there. If they do get there early. The other thing the software allows us to see is where the driver actually hits the I'm here button, and it gives us the lat and long and displays it on a map.
Yeah.
And it also shows us when they hit the no-show button, what the lat and long was at the time they hit the no-show button. So we can see if a driver does leave before then and then hit the no-show, we'll see that. But I haven't actually seen
anybody.
Yeah, what I've actually seen, and this is one thing we are working on with the drivers, the I'm here button, you can only hit within a certain range. It's 300 meters. So drivers will hit that, half a block away. So we've been getting on the drivers of no, not until your vehicle's in park at the location do you hit that button.
Can you type it?
No, that was the smallest range they had. And the reason for that is, once again, we're relying on Google Maps and where they put the geocode. So if they put the geocode far off the road and we're on the road, if you made it any shorter, you may not be able to click that I'm here button. So it's just, they actually recommended a higher number, and we brought it down to 300. They recommended 1,000. We brought it down to 300 to make sure they're as close as possible.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I'm hearing, that they're getting, that the calls are crossing each other and they're hurrying and they'll be coming out and someone will be getting ready to pull away.
So, and just so you're aware, we did make a change to the calls. So the calls should not be crossing anymore, because we did have it where you would be like, oh, the bus is here, and then you get a text, the bus is 10 minutes away. That's because the system originally allowed drivers to mark I'm here up to an hour early, and that was causing some issues because some drivers do like to run early. So we've actually brought that down so drivers can't actually click I'm here more than 5 minutes beforehand. And the reason for that is we don't want customers rushing. Because what was happening is they'd accidentally click on here an hour early. Because they go and they look and they're like, all right, I want to make sure I'm in the right spot. So they scope it out first, and then they'd hit here by accident and realize it. Then the driver would call us and go, oh, I hit this by accident. But the problem is, as soon as you hit here, there's no delay. It immediately texts the customer. So that's why we changed some of the settings to prevent that from happening. In the
Yeah,
future.
because I was tied down in a bus one day and got we're 10 minutes out. Like, no, you're not.
Yeah. So we've prevented them from marking there too early. That way customers don't feel the pressure of getting out there right away.
So what is when can they mark themselves arrived? Like,
5 minutes before the window time.
okay, that I just need to know what to communicate to people and.
Yep.
And have we fixed the problem with East Syracuse with Bennett?
Yes.
Good, because.
That was a Google Map issue again too.
And there was a problem with 1010 James Street too, which is Interfaith Works.
Yeah, let me look at that one.
Because people were trying to get from Bennett to Interfaith Works and back home, and both addresses were showing outside a driving area.
Yeah. What happens sometimes on that is with our old system, it was using a much older map, a different style of map. So now when you get onto Google and you have more accurate layers, it does put people slightly out, where we're still honoring those trips. So it's not like we're saying, hey, you're out. We're overriding saying, hey, no, they've always been in. We're gonna go out. And I mean, Google is to the exact point. The old system would put it on the road. So if your address was like, let's say, New Central, 200 Cortland Ave, the old system would put 200 Cortland Ave right on the street. Google's going to put it where the actual building is placed on that property. So from the road to the house could be 50 to 100 feet. And if you live just on the edge there, it may now say, because the house is outside that line, then now you're out, when really the road is in, so we're going to say you're in. So it's just
so we got
changes
some,
in the map.
some little glitches.
Yeah, it's just
that's what I've been telling people. It's
tweaks
just
to the map. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just tell them calm down, and if you can't get it, call one of the girls. They'll fix it.
Yeah, and once we identify it, VIA is very good about when we put in a ticket saying, hey, we need an adjustment on the map here. They're very good. Within a couple of days, we have the map update. So
I had a lot of very upset senior companions getting a hold of me saying, we can't go to the office. 1010 James Street, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
So
I promise, I'll ask, I'll make sure it gets fixed.
I'll look at that one. It might have been at their end.
Well, it might have been because a lot of them were coming from Bennett on Kinney,
Yeah.
and that was showing outside the map. So,
I'll have to look at that one because it shouldn't show outside the map because we have a fixed route that goes there. So you got 3/4 on top of that.
well, it was saying out of call bus service for Bennett over on Kinney Street. I was there in their
Was it on their app?
on their app.
I know what that is. Do you know who it was? I'll get with you after.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
find out.
It was a lot of people. I had 10 people in the room.
Yeah, it's
giving me the why doesn't this work?
So we'll talk after. I know a solution for that. VIA is set up as a on-demand service that was the service starts as. So what happens is when they set people up, they set everyone up for on-demand and call a bus. So it's saying they're outside the on-demand area because the on-demand area is only in Rome. So there's a little button on the bottom to switch between on-demand and para. But we can go in and turn on-demand off for them, and then it'll just come up with para, and they won't even
Okay,
have
so
to
if
do
they're
that.
having that problem, I'll just tell them to call you.
Yeah, call us and we'll fix it.
I was gonna say, Tina, if you have these concerns or people are reaching out to you, don't wait till the monthly board meeting. You
Oh,
can
no,
certainly reach out
this
to
is-
Josh and I to get it done.
Oh, yeah, this is something that's happened in the last 3 days.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So just shoot me some names and we'll get them set up.
Okay.
Any
Anything else,
questions on the report?
Very good, thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Jeff?
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the board. I want to bring you some reports on our bus build. All 64 buses have arrived, 54 are in service. 10 are undergoing PDIs, and I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous meeting, but we have discovered.
Explain to the board PDI.
Oh, I'm sorry. Post-delivery inspections. So it's all of our staff come through and inspect the buses, make sure they're in good repair so we can put them out on the street. So we discovered some leaks in the roofs. So the roof line's leaking, and Gillett came out and inspected every bus. They found there was a total of 13 that were affected. We have sent out 4. 2 have come back with repairs. 2 are still there. They're doing the inspections or the repairs at the plant so that they can make sure to get this process documented and it's perfect. So when they come here, they plan on coming here to repair the remainder. They'll know exactly how to repair them. So that's underway. As for the buses that were in service and leaking, they taped them so that we can keep them in service until they can get the repairs done. And as I mentioned, we looked at every single bus, and Utica buses, they were not affected. And the problem was they had a bad batch of adhesive on the roof line. So they were able to determine exactly where it was, determine the buses, and hopefully everything's good. Any bus that may leak maybe a year or 2 from now, they will cover them underneath the 12-year warranty.
Some of you, when I talk to some of the drivers, they will give feedback. The new shield you have, it's kind of hard to put the latch in there.
Yep, we're coming up with a solution with that. There's a new latch that we're gonna work on. Actually, it's getting delivered today. So we'll get that into production so the staff can see it, and if they approve it, we'll move forward with those. And it'll be, instead of going into the floor, it'll be onto the stanchion pole. Project updates. Restrooms, almost complete. May 1st, first week of May, we'll have the maintenance restrooms complete. The second week of May will be downstairs restrooms, which is great because I know a lot of people are, especially in maintenance, having to go to the porta potties. It's not fun. Electrical service. We've got electric service on our Cortland Avenue, which is for our CNG facility. The switchgear and breakers are in and installed, and the service is ready to go. And this is for our new CNG facility, which we're upgrading. We're going from a natural gas engine to a electric motor, and it'll be a lot faster, and hopefully things will be a lot better. And that first skid of the 3 is supposed to arrive June, July time. And the Oneida merger, Wendell, which is our consultant for the Oneida to look for new locations, they discovered several, and we had a meeting this week. We discussed the pros and cons of locations. We decided on picking one in particular. So the next steps are Wendell will begin the environmental and Title VI review, and they'll create a categorical exclusion document, which is expected to come October of 2025. This document will be submitted to the FTA, which at that point will take about 12 months for them to review to get back to us. Wendell is also going to begin the preliminary design or the plans, which is 30%, and that's expected in October 25. And they will also be providing a construction cost estimated with the 30%. So there's a lot more to come, and it's going to be a lot of sitting around waiting. Anybody have any questions?
Oh, one thing. One other thing I forgot is some drivers love the small steering wheel. Some don't like it. Which one is
We're going towards the small steering wheel, which is an easy steer. A lot of people have said they liked it because the other ones you were hurting your shoulders. We're having a lot of comp cases for that. And there's no way to get around that smaller wheel. I wish we could have a larger wheel with that easy steer. But if you did, you'd be steering the buses too quickly. Any other questions?
Thanks, Jeff. Steve?
Good morning, everybody. Give you an update on ridership first. Month of March, all the city services were up over the previous year. Syracuse was up about 9%, Auburn up 8%. Utica's going crazy, they're up 19%, but part of that is because we now have the rural service that we're attributing to the Utica ridership. We're doing about 375 rides a week on the rural service. It's growing, it's doing well. Rome is up 8% overall. We're up about 4 to 5% with the overall product. Syracuse University is down a little bit. I'm seeing a decrease in university ridership. A lot of that has to do, I think, with their enrollment's a little down,
more importantly, there's really a shift from students in South Campus to off-campus housing that they're seeing, so not using our service as much. I think that's probably a trend that we're going to see continue over time. There was a recent announcement that they're going to be building more dorms, moving kids off South Campus, so I think over time, that ridership is going to shrink, but it's not going to be because of anything we've done. It's just going to be the new layout of how the university looks.
Oswego?
Syracuse University. I'm
Oh,
sorry. Did I say
Oswego.
Oswego? Oh, Oswego is flat.
Okay.
Oswego is pretty flat. They're, it's been down. We're not anywhere near the pre-COVID levels. It's more of a walking campus now, and I also think that their enrollment is down as well. So I think we're struggling to get to 60% of where we were pre-COVID for SUNY Oswego. Just not the same.
For Oswego as the county as a whole?
Oswego as a county as a whole is growing. If you take the student ridership out, the other services are growing. We instituted something called single point login, which doesn't mean anything to anybody here. It just means that the fare boxes are now controlling how the data is collected, and it's more accurate. So we're seeing a shift in ridership from where we thought it was to where it is now, but it's more accurate. But overall, it's growing 2 and 3% per location. The Mexico service, Fulton, and the city of Oswego. So it's doing well. It's healthy. Overall, when you look at the year, it's the end of the year, fiscal year, we look at it that way. Our city ridership, which is the people we expect to pay fares, is up 9% overall system-wide. It's still a very healthy gain over a year. It's more than I anticipated a year ago, so it's still growing. I do expect it to slow down, but I expected it to slow down much more last year as well, so it still tends to grow. It's still going to be growing.
It's gonna slow down over summer.
It normally does. We'll have fewer riders. The schools will close down. Support staff will not be traveling. Yep. I want to talk a little bit about Cortland. As you've heard, service is going very well. We're already meeting with community groups to talk to them about wishes and what they like about service and what they may want to see. I think we're looking at maybe tweaking service there a little bit in the not too distant future. We're still kind of getting our feet wet, kind of figuring out what service is doing what. But I think there are ways in which we'd be more efficient, maybe reach different locations that we currently reach. And we're still in that evaluation process, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see something different in coming months where we'll have something to announce about what we think we want to do down there. But there's definitely some opportunities for increased ridership and increased connectivity for the community down there. Would also like to point out that this coming week we're going to announce that we're going to roll out a Veterans Pass for our community, which is going to allow free rides for veterans on our fixed vehicles. This is a card that individuals they'll go to their local veteran service agency, they'll fill out an application. We're going to have the veteran service agency verify their position, whether they're eligible for veterans benefits. Basically, if you're honorably discharged, you will be able to access this pass. Then you take that sheet down to a local central office, whether it's the hub here or other locations. We will, on the spot, make a pass for you. It'll have your ID on it, and it's a forever pass. It will beep on the fare box. So the veteran then will be able to walk up to the fare box. It'll beep. It'll say, please show me your ID to prove the veteran is the person holding the card. They will show the ID, and the person sits, and it's going to be free fares for veterans going forward in all of our properties. We have to do it for Oneida, Oswego, Cayuga, and Onondaga County only right now because we do not have electronic fare boxes. We're looking at how a way in which we can implement it down there in the future, but for right now, it'll be only in those counties. There will be an announcement at a press event on Wednesday that we're still putting together. So it'll be we're very excited. It's something that's been a long time in process. The technology took us longer than I was thrilled with for getting it up and running, but we have to do this so it's not a burden on the driver. The driver has enough to do. We want to make sure that the pass beeps in the fare box, and the driver doesn't have to ask any questions about whether the pass works or not. If you're a veteran, you get to ride for free. So
can you do the same thing for someone who's DSS and so I'm going from Mexico to
for the half fare?
Yeah. With their card.
We're working toward that. That's a different solution because that won't automatically trigger. You're still expecting a fare from the individual there. So that pass, that you can show it, but if it beeps in the fare box, then you're gonna have people go, oh, well, I'm good, I can go sit down. You're still expecting a fare in that case,
But
so.
that's gonna be charged back to DSS or that
And
whatever entity.
That's a different process. You're saying that DSS has a card where then we tally up all the hits and then that's something we could look at.
It's possible, but as Steve talked about, some different technology. We have to program the card and program the fare box to communicate. So I know like DSS may give you a ride home and a ride to work.
Right.
But we can't limit the card to just say you can only get 2 trips. Once you get the card, the programming is, I get it all day. So if they say, you know, I need to go to the mall, I want to go grocery shopping, if DSS wants to pay for all that, the card can work.
So then that's on DSS to limit you get 10 rides, thinking home and back 5 days a week.
Right. But
That's a different technology. Now you're programming the card only to be 10 rides. This Veterans Pass is unlimited use.
So there's some nuances to it to make it work in that particular situation, or to work for OCC or work for SU. You know, all these things would have to be programmed slightly different, but it's something that we are looking at. It's different ways of how we can do it, whether it's a tap to pay, a magnetic strip, or using your phone through the mobile app setup. So Steve's team is evaluating all of those options.
Is that something worth going to OCC? Because the OCC used to have the blue dot way back when.
Yeah.
On the IDs.
And then we had the kind of that plastic.
Plastic, right?
Yep. Semester pass, which
Yeah.
we're still using today, but it is something we can look at now with some of the features that we now got into.
There are some employers who are interested in providing unlimited transportation for their employees, and if that's so those are the types of agreements that we're seeking out, where we can use this type of technology. So we can say, listen, you can use it where we want to go. The city of Syracuse is a great example.
Yeah.
And maybe a portion of the city about using technology rather than showing a badge, so we can get better accurate counts for those who are using it. And if they ever want to know exactly how they're using it, we probably can figure that out as well.
And cars have pictures?
The veterans ID passes will, yes. So a veteran will go down and they will go to the location. We will take their picture and their photo will be attached. So in their particular case, the fare box will say, it'll beep, and then it'll say, please show your pass. So you will show it to the driver, just so the driver can verify.
The pass?
The pass.
Because at first you said ID, so I'm thinking, yeah, show the pass
It's
and
the
ID?
pass. No, it's the
Just
ID's
the
on
pass.
the pass.
Okay.
Yes, and then that way
It looks like the ones that you give us.
Similar. This is gonna have a very different look to it. It's gonna say veterans on it. It's gonna have the flag. It's gonna be very well produced by our marketing department, working within the limited scope that the card allows. But yeah, we're very excited about that. Any questions on any of that?
Good job, Steve.
And with that, I'm gonna bring Brent Dice up to explain the progress in our many programs that we're moving forward with, including the Better Bus projects in Oswego and Onondaga.
So on the screen to the left is what the pass will look like. So the front side will say veteran with the logo, and then the back side will be printed with the picture and the details. And this is on our website. I'll push out an email to get the specifics on the press release, location and things.
Thank you, Chris.
As soon as it's finalized. All right, Frank.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So today's update is all about Centro's building better bus systems. First, I'll talk about Better Bus Oswego. So we are looking at a system redesign for January of 2026 in Oswego. Our pop-up events, we've been talking to the public, we've been talking to the students and going out and chatting with folks and giving them some preliminary stuff, but we are going to start pop-up events the beginning of May at the school. We wanted to make sure we got some pop-up events at the school before they leave for the semester. So just wanted to let you know that those events are happening. The first one will be on May 6th, and we'll be continuing public outreach. We'll have our public meeting, our official public meeting in September, but we wanted to make sure we got the students in before they left. Moving on then to Better Bus Onondaga. That one is going well. If you remember, that is due to launch in the summer of 2026 as well. We spent the day yesterday, as Chris talked about at the beginning of the meeting, with our consultants, and they're here this afternoon as well, actually soon. We've been working through these workshops to hash out various concepts in the system redesign, to talk about how new things might work into it, what our driver status looks like, and how we can provide different service. Maybe not all of our routes going through the hub, having mini hubs throughout the county, or a couple little mini lineups, not necessarily a mini hub. So we're also looking at best practices in the transit industry. We had a really productive couple of meetings yesterday, and I know that we've got another good one that's scheduled for today. We're also working on some environmental processes through the BOT stuff, so that we are moving that process forward, and we'll be tying it all up together this afternoon and determining next steps. So stay tuned for more information as we have those next steps. I can give you that information probably next month about how that goes, but it's going well and moving forward as expected. So, yay.
I will add that we're finishing some final system designs for Oswego. Monty, I'm gonna get you a copy of what the proposed look like, so you're not blindsided by anybody. So once we have that finalized and what we think represents the community, I'll make sure you get a copy of that. We're following up on what we did in Rome, essentially, where we simplified the system, increased frequency, and made it easier for people to understand the service and not get to the point where they don't need a paper schedule. And I think that we've made some really good strides in Oswego with the service. Our service development department is, they're in there crunching numbers and looking at what left turns and right turns and seeing where the ridership is. And we think we have a really good option to roll out for Oswego County with a couple of minor adjustments that still need to be made.
You can't be done.
I think that's it.
All right. You sure?
It's late, I feel like I
That was like the warm up.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report and staff reports.
Very good. Excellent reports. We appreciate your efforts. We're gonna move right into audit and finance. Okay, no financials, because this time of the year, there's no financials to be discussed, but we did have multiple resolutions, which we'll discuss in committee. Resolution number 3A, to authorize contract award for administrative services for the Employment Assistance Program. Recommendation was to move to the full board for award of contract to Kraus Health People EAP for a 5-year term commencing January of 26. Motion was made to bring it to the full board. May I have a motion? Tony, second. Tina. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. 3B, resolution authorized payment to Clever Devices for multi-year software and database maintenance agreement. Motion was made to support this agreement with Clever Devices for software maintenance beginning April 1 of 25 through May 31st, 2030. May I have a motion? Tina, second. Luella, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Resolution 3C, to authorize contract award for Portland County Fuel Farm Agreement. Once again, we will be billed monthly by Portland County at a rate of 25 cents above the cost per gallon. This is for a 1-year commencing in April. May I have a motion? Neil, second. Julius, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Resolution to transfer a bus to Watertown City Bus. I hope this isn't a start there, Mr. Duff, of some more work up there.
I don't think so right now.
All right, you never know.
We'll let the team breathe on it.
Okay, so motion was made for Robert, second. Tony, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And once again, 3E, resolution to authorize a bus donation to the City of Syracuse Fire Department. And in order for the minutes that Neil definitely said this is needed. And in his role with the city, he'll be abstaining, recusing himself. Do I have a motion? Monty, second. Tina, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, Melissa, is there any other thing that I might have to release since the last half hour?
No, I think we're good.
Hey, you're short today too. You and Brent should hang out together a little bit more. Okay.
We will in May.
Okay, so there was a pension committee today. I was actually pretty concerned coming in here today about this committee, knowing that the volatility of the market, knowing that we kind of are trustees for almost $100 million here when you look at all of them. But I think with Tim's presentation, we all felt better, knowing that the market looked at a dip of about 2.5%, but still for the 1 year we're still at just under 6. So I think he made it pretty clear on, you know, the diversity and our investments, and you know, they don't chase stocks. It's a blend. I think that's important. And I felt, and I think it was a good discussion with the board. I felt comfortable knowing that they're watching this pretty well, and we offered him an invitation. If he needs to see us sooner on anything, we'll talk. But it's a duty that we have. A lot of people depend on that. It's very, very important. I thought it was a good meeting. That was good. Okay. At this point, what I'd like to do is, Luella, I'm going to turn this over to Luella for nominating committee slate of officers for the 25-26. I was almost going to say school year, academic year, but I'm going to say transportation year.
Transportation?
Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to presenting the slate of officers for year 25-26. Nicholas F. Leno as chair, Anthony Davis as vice chair, Darlene Blackmore as secretary, and Tina Fitzgerald as treasurer.
Okay, Luella has a motion on the table. First, Monty.
Second. No, I mean, first.
First, second would be
Everyone
Neil. Second is Neil. Any discussion or any other folks interested? The paycheck here is unbelievable that I get.
I know, the perks are incredible.
That was a quick,
The pay is really, half moon.
I brought some stuff here. I brought it here. Okay, so with that being said, all in favor? Aye. Okay, is there any other discuss, because I just need the board for like maybe 5 minutes in executive session, that's it. But is there any other regarding personnel related matter? Julius, you gotta say something.
Well, TNT is gonna be meeting in May.
Okay.
At our TNT meeting and stuff like that. I'm hoping that TNT have, if you have a projector or something like that, bring it with you. They explain it better, because some people, you know, some of the older people does not understand how it works.
Do you guys have a projector and you want us to bring a presentation? Or do we need to bring the equipment?
How do you want to do it? But it's gonna have
Bring it with you.
Okay.
Bring it with you.
Okay, we do have the equipment, so I just wanted to make sure, is it something we need to bring, or is it something?
Yeah.
Okay. We can
So
certainly
we
take care of
explain,
that.
you know, exactly what's going on, but a lot of people question how it's working out, you know.
And we can work out some handouts too. I'll see what Brent's presentation looks like, we can put some stuff together.
Okay, at this point, I want to thank everybody. There's going to be no action taken. Our Cortland family will be out here with some of our family. We're going to very quickly, then we're going to go into a little good thing, like putting Cortland up there on the map. Whoever wants to stay, but this will be quick, and we'll see some of the folks in a few minutes. Otherwise, everybody have a good sunny weekend. We're gonna need a motion to go, Frank, you're gonna stay in, a motion to go in executive session. We're gonna first nominate Mayor Tina, second Marella. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. executive session. No action was taken. At this moment, we will adjourn and everybody have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.